Greetings from Bali. I wanted to talk this morning about what it means to be an empath and how to healthily function as one. So, for those of you who are not familiar with the term, an empath is someone who can feel or sense someone else's emotions. You could even say also their other people's physical experiences. And especially people who are interested in healing modalities tend to be very empathetic. And it can be quite frustrating to navigate in the world as someone who's so empathetic, because there's a huge confusion about what's yours and what's someone else's, and a constant feeling of being sick and taking on other people's stuff. We could potentially argue that due to trauma, and let's get real, every human being, every living thing on this planet is traumatized. And to keep it very simplistic, sometimes due to trauma, we become overly, we could say almost like overly extroverted, and then, or we be overly introverted. So for all of us, we're looking for how do we create harmonious balance. So sticking with an empath, you could say energetically something, it could even just be a personality trait. We don't know if it's due to trauma, but there's something that causes someone who's empathetic to start to take extra tentacles in one's field and start to just really extend really far out so that there's a sensing into everything and everywhere else. It's really not, in my opinion, appropriate. And I feel like I'm totally allowed to say this because I'm someone who's been very empathetic. So we need to be really careful because a lot of stories and even ego can get created out of the ability to tune into other people. And in reality, other people's stuff isn't our business. So this is called respect. So it's very important, if you have a habit to go into other people's emotional field, psychological field, to actually respect boundaries. So if you're someone who feels like you're constantly confused about what your stuff is and what someone else's stuff is, if you feel like you're constantly taking stuff on that's not yours, here are some really simple practices to check in with. Number one, boundaries. Understanding that what is your business and what someone else's business is. Also, just being respectful of personal space, psychic space, emotional space. Asking permission is part of having boundaries. Living in your center. So instead of being overly involved with other people when you enter a room, and we can be empathetic sitting by ourselves, constantly thinking about other people, become, and this is going to sound so selfish, but become actually very, I'm going to say self-absorbed, but actually bringing yourself back to your center. What matters to you? Unhooking from the need to please others, to take care of others. If you're not someone who's empathetic, then this may not be helpful to you. But I'm speaking to those of you who tend to be overly involved and affected by other people's energy. So living from your core, finding your center, being honest with what matters to you, unhooking from the need to please others, respecting boundaries, and trusting yourself so you don't need validation from others. I hope this helps.